Greetings to our audience. I'm Pramod, and I welcome you to the Apratibandha podcast, where we discuss all things to do with revivalism of Bharata's glory by delving deep into our Vedic roots. Our main reference today is the book A Brief History of Science in India, written by Sabarish P.A. We will just address two major questions because we want to keep this podcast brief. One of my first guest, Atindra, comes from a background of mechanical engineering and will talk about mathematics in Vedic Bharat and its uses in today's world. My second guest for today, Saurav, comes from a background of chemical engineering and will talk about Ayurveda and its revival for healthcare today. My first question to Atindra. I think we all agree that mathematics is the language of science and progress of science is closely tied to the progress of mathematics. But what do you think that the advances in mathematics that we saw in Vedic Bharat, and how do you think they could be of use today in modern mathematics?
So first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for this opportunity, and um, I like the question that has been asked of me. So we already see. I'm just going to focus on how we already use a lot of results that were derived during Vedic Bharat today. We use a lot of these results in all STEM fields. STEM being the acronym for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But the names of the people that we attribute these results and achievements to are all European. And this is a result of colonialism and the concept of Christian discovery, which essentially states that something can be discovered only when a Christian does it and not otherwise. So this is a problem.
That's a bold statement, Atindra. But can you back it up with some examples for somebody like me who doesn't know what you're
Yeah.
talking?
So So we have Madhava's series, Madhava, who's from the Kerala School of Mathematics, and his series is called Taylor's series, which is used for approximating the value of a function in a given neighborhood around a point. And the Fibonacci sequence, which is a part of Pingala's work from much earlier. Then we also have calculus, which was developed in the Kerala School of Mathematics, but is attributed by modern mathematics to Newton and Leibniz. So these are all things that we developed in Vedic Bharat, but they're all attributed to Europeans.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Do you have a resource that one could refer to?
Yeah, sure. For this specific topic of mathematical tools that were and results that were developed in Vedic Bharat and how it has been appropriated by European mathematicians, C.K. Raju's work is very insightful. He's an Indian mathematician. His website is very useful, and he talks about he links all his papers and his books, and specifically for calculus and how it was developed in India. His book titled "Cultural Foundations of Mathematics" is a really good read.
I hope my listeners can make use of it. Thank you. Moving on, my next question to you, Atindra, is how do you think we could add value to the field of mathematics? I mean, learning from our Vedic past, of course.
So yeah, I really like this question because I've spent a lot of time thinking about it as well. So something that is not mentioned in the book we're discussing, which I think is of great value in every endeavor, not just mathematics, is the theory of Advaita Vedanta.
Uh,
So just for brevity, I'll
let
just
me
call it Advaita henceforth instead of calling it Advaita Vedanta every time. But I mean Advaita Vedanta.
let me stop you there before you
Yeah.
move on. Can you tell our listeners what is Advaita Vedanta?
Yeah, so for the uninitiated, Advaita Vedanta or Advaita is one of the many schools of Vedanta. So Hinduism is unique in that for the same major texts, which are the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Sutras, and the Upanishads, we have multiple interpretations based on the different definitions of the self, the God, and the role of the world around us, and the relationships between these three entities: the self, the God, and the world around us. And the reason I talk about Advaita specifically and not any other school of Vedanta is only for the simple reason that I am more familiar with this school of thought. All of these schools of thought are equally valid, and they ultimately lead to the same universal truth. Um, but I am more familiar with Advaita, and that's why I focus on it. And I believe that so one of the biggest proponents of Advaita Vedanta has been was Adi Shankaracharya, and he propounded this theory of superimposition in one of his texts, which is one of the primary texts, one of the seminal texts of Advaita Vedanta, is the Adhyasa Bhashyam, which literally translates to a commentary on superimposition. And I think that this text has a great potential to yield a more robust framework of mathematics than what to solve problems than what we have today, the framework of mathematics that we use today.
Okay.
And it might be, so let me just caveat, let me just state that this theory of superimposition is pretty deep, and it might be too much to dive into right now. But a great for all things Advaita is are the Vedanta Society channels on YouTube and Swami Sarvapriyananda's videos on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. Going back to your statement about a new framework that you call, how do you think this new framework will be more effective than the current framework of mathematics?
Yeah, great question. Because if you're not getting any value from something new, then there is no point in working on it. So all of mathematics is built on a set of axioms, and axioms are just assumptions that we start out with to make it easier for us to solve problems. And we build theorems from axioms, and using these theorems we develop models to predict the behavior of various systems. And when I say model, I refer to a set of equations that we solve to predict the behavior of systems, and then we validate these models against experimental observations to see how well our model is doing. So essentially we could get the same results from a different set of initial axioms, which is the subject of axiomatic mathematics. That's what they deal with, how to start off with a different set of axioms to yield better results. And the systems that we study could be anything. I'll give you a few examples. So weather prediction and measuring, and the measured weather prediction could be a system that we study, and the measured values could be temperature, humidity, etc. Prediction of bridge failure, which is probably one of the direct examples that you can think of when you think of engineering. And another thing that most people might not think of immediately when I talk about mathematical modeling is the prediction of illnesses in individuals. So if you think of cardiovascular or heart problems, then the measured variables could be blood pressure or something like that. So we could predict a variety of systems, as long as we have sound reasoning backing our mathematics. So we find that beginning with a different set of axiomatic assumptions, we could arrive at a better model. And what I mean by a better model is that I could think of two ways in which a model could be better. Is If the model is easy to solve, like the set of equations that you're solving are easier to solve. And the other one is the predicted value. The solutions that you get from solving the set of equations are closer to what we observe experimentally. And from what I have studied so far, I strongly believe that a study of Advaita Vedanta in conjunction with axiomatic mathematics would yield great results for humanity.
Okay, but why do you think Advaita Vedanta to formulate axioms?
So
What's the connection?
yeah, so one reason is I am biased towards Advaita because I've spent so much time studying it. I feel like any school of Vedantic thought could yield really good models. It just, you need the right person working on each of them. But personally, I believe that formulating axioms based on the theory of Advaita would definitely be far superior to our current framework because of the success of Advaita in explaining the nature of reality and the spiritual success of the proponents of this school. So one prominent example I can give you of a proponent of this school of thought would be Swami Vivekananda, who was educated in both Western and Eastern traditions, and he excelled at unifying them so well. And there have also been discussions, like Swami Vivekananda and Nikola Tesla have also had discussions. And we know all about Nikola Tesla, and we know about Vivekananda and how spiritually advanced he was. And I believe the success of proponents like Vivekananda to be a result of the robustness of the theory of Advaita. So I think this is something that we should look into.
That was very insightful, Atindra. I didn't know Swami Vivekananda and Nikola Tesla had met. That was interesting. Thank you. My next question to Saurav. What is your take on Ayurveda?
Hi, Pramod.
What do you think? Explain to our listeners what exactly Ayurveda is.
Well, thanks for asking this question. Before I start, I would just like to remind our listeners that how ancient Ayurveda is. Though we can't pinpoint the exact date when Ayurveda started, but we can roughly state that it started around 5,000 years ago when Sage Bharadwaj laid the rational foundation of Ayurveda itself. Ayurveda is a culmination of two words, Ayu, which means age, and Veda, which means knowledge. So personally, I like to simplify Ayurveda as the age of science of aging gracefully. But if we dig deeper, then we can also say that it's a science of being physically healthy and mentally happy using plant, animal, and mineral products around us. I personally like to view Ayurveda as the science of balance between physical body and mental acuity. But this is not the case in modern science and modern times as well. Yoga, as per ancient science, is the joining of individual consciousness to universal consciousness.
You said this is not the case in modern times. What do you mean by it?
So, issue is in modern times, Western medicine has been in the forefront. And Western medicine started out by looking at mental and physical illness as two separate entities. Nowadays, because of influencers and social media, Ayurveda has also taken a similar step, and it is not an amalgamation, which it was proposed anciently. It is now broadly classified into two techniques. One is the mental aspect part, which circumpasses yoga, meditation, and one is the extract part, extracts from plants or byproducts from animals.
That's interesting. But I've been using Ayurvedic products since my childhood. But for some of my listeners who haven't been exposed to Ayurvedic medicines, what would you tell them? Does it actually work? What is it like?
So I personally believe that there's a lot of detailed information which has been lost throughout time about Ayurveda, and we need subsequent research about it. But even with that kind of issues, there are a few products which still work very well in modern times as well.
Can you give us some examples?
So one of my favorite example is ashwagandha. It's being perpetuated as the panacea for mental stress. It reduces anxiety, supports restful sleep, and I think every one of us, when we go to Starbucks or any coffee shop, we always see turmeric chai tea latte, which is touted as the next big anti-inflammatory drink. But the reality is, there's an active compound called as curcumin, which has been found to be the effective anti-inflammatory agent. I think we all remember our childhood that whenever we used to catch cold and cough, our mom used to give us garam haldi doodh and told us drink this and you'll be all fine. So I think we can see that Ayurveda takes a lot of inspiration from nature and the products around us.
Yeah, I still remember the Haldi Doodh drama with my mom. I never liked it. But anyway, you said that Ayurveda takes inspiration from nature. Do you think modern medicine also does this? Does it take
Yeah,
inspiration from nature?
yeah, certainly. Like one of the most widely used drug in the world now is aspirin, and it's actually an extract from a wild tree bark. Similarly, penicillin, which was the first antibiotic, is also extracted from common mold. And now researchers are looking far deeper, like extract from Pacific yew tree has been used for making cancer treating drugs called as paclitaxel. And
Mm.
also, these are all plant extract, but just to give you an example of animal extract, snake venom has been heavily researched for treating diseases such as Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. So having an Ayurvedic lens of viewing things and modern science will help in realizing much more powerful products and drugs for us.
Yeah. So you're saying that modern medicine can be improved upon a lot
Yes,
with.
certainly.
Yeah. Uh, that was interesting to know, sort of.
Mhm.
Moving on. Recently I've been hearing about all the scams around Ayurvedic medicines and also about players like Novak Djokovic using Ayurvedic lifestyle. So these are two very contrasting opinions. What's your take on it?
So yeah, exceptional athletes like Novak Djokovic, who is the number one tennis player, Aaron Rodgers, who is a NFL MVP player. They all have some form of yoga in their diet and in life, and their life is available to all of us using social media. So people have now started thinking that Ayurveda is the one-stop solution for all their problems. Unfortunately, because of this, the proponents of Ayurveda have now started twisting it. They are now making medicines which aims to treat all the diseases from like simple diseases such as stomachache to epilepsy. This all has created business models which is creating ill-researched products and ultimately harming common individual man. There has been a large uptick in liver diseases in Southeast India, and that is something which needs to be checked about. So that's why I believe that the government of India and the scientific body should come together and have a proper government mandate, a government body which will see Ayurveda through a scientific thought process, do modern analysis, and this will help us in building literature and treating these ailments effectively.
On a lighter note, do you think the Hajmola that we liked as kids, do you think that is an Ayurvedic medicine or?
Uh, yeah, I certainly love to have a ton of those. There has to be some science behind it because it ultimately used to work. So I hope
Mhm.
all the new medicines taste as good as Hashimola.
I hope so too. Uh, Thank you, both of you. But before we sign off, I would like to say a few things. As Saurav might have pointed out, we need a lot of structured institutional government-funded research to revive all of our Vedic sciences. The points made by both of you are thoughts for the audience to ponder upon. Again, I'd like to thank you both for making time during your busy schedule. That's it for today. See you on another episode of Apratibandha podcast.